Hello and welcome to the Meehan Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Meehan, and on today's episode, we get to sit down with Dan Reed from Pico IV. Okay, y'all, this is a powerful company that does IV therapy and cannabinoid research. So we have a lot to dig into. We are going to talk to Dan about the endocannabinoid system, also referred to as ECS. He's going to explain to us what is the endocannabinoid system, how it's beneficial for our health, and the interesting thing I want to know is why don't more mainstream physicians know about the endocannabinoid system? You guys are going to be just learning so much today, and I welcome you to share this podcast with other people who are interested in natural and holistic healing, and just sit back, enjoy this show, and you might want to take some notes. Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Meehan Podcast. I am Kathy Meehan, and today we are sitting down with Dan Reed. Dan is with Pico IV, and you guys know I love to introduce people that are like movers and shakers and bringing some really great things to our community and to the rest of the world. So Dan, Pico IV. Let's talk about that because we're going to get into a big word, you guys, the endocannabinoid system, also called the ECS, if you hear Dan say that. But let's start with, Dan, how did you get to where you are and what exactly is Pico IV?
Yeah, good question. First of all, thank you so much, Kathy, for having me on. I really appreciate it. You are doing so many instrumental things in this industry, and you are a mover and a shaker, and you're moving mountains for so many people. It's so critical, and the awareness that you're creating is incredible. So I'm very honored to be here. Pico IV, yes. What is it? So basically, the cannabis and the hemp plant have cannabinoids. And this plant is very known for THC. This is actually what they want you to know this plant as, but it's actually a very minute portion of this plant. The cannabis and hemp plant has over 200 different cannabinoid compounds. THC just happens to be one of them. CBD, which is one of the compounds that we work with, is another one. And over time, actually, you could go back 5,000 years that doctors and physicians have been utilizing plant-based cannabinoids for health, wellness, and healing. This goes all the way back to ancient China, which was nearly 5,000 years ago. At any rate, it's, through like modern medicine, there's lots of doctors and nurses that use CBD. But the typical delivery systems that we get with it, they're oil-based products. You can get them in tinctures. You can get those in gummies. And the challenge with oil cannabinoid products is low bioavailability, which is roughly 6 to 10%. So there was just a big gap in the cannabinoid delivery system, especially when it comes to medical professionals, is getting something that offers high bioavailability. And what we've been able to do is take an oil-based product. We've been able to make it water soluble, so it's hydrophilic. And what we've been able to do is reduce the particle size small enough to fit through a sterile filter. So this can be sterilized. So it's a completely translucent liquid. And because we've been able to accomplish that, this is something that can be delivered systemically, where we're getting 99.9% bioavailability.
Wow. So speak a little bit about bioavailability and to our audience and why that is important, especially when it comes to modes of delivery, like an oral product versus something that's delivered, maybe it's an IV or an injection or something like that. But why is bioavailability important on anything that a patient's receiving?
Right. Well, it's how much of the product your body is actually getting. So when you're taking, for instance, an oral-based oil CBD product, you're going through the GI. And as it's going through this digestional tract, you're losing 90 to 94% of it, to where your body is only absorbing, like I said, 6 to 10%. So we're just not
Mhm.
getting enough. And for things to be truly effective in the body, we really need to be up near that 100% marker.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense. And then going back to talking about the Pico IV, and I just want to clarify, like we should on everything, we are not doctors. We are not giving medical advice. We are just providing information. We will provide links below where you yourself can go get more information on this. And I know, and at our clinic, we call it IV therapy, which means it's not an oral, it's not an injection, where it's actually an IV. And I know, the FDA is really particular about what people call those things. And so I just want to put that clarification out there, you guys. We are not doctors. We are not recommending anything. We're just talking about where you can get more information. Okay. So always got to throw that in there nowadays, right?
Right.
To make sure.
Disclaimer.
So
We have disclaimers for the disclaimer.
yeah, disclaimer for the disclaimer. So, but let's go ahead and let's talk about the endocannabinoid system, because that's a big word. And for most people that are really kind of in the mainstream medical, arena, doctors don't even talk about the endocannabinoid system. And why is it? And you're right. I mean, people have been, treating the endocannabinoid system for thousands and thousands of years, but it was never really defined. And now we've got this, more natural way to treat. But how does the endocannabinoid system like work in my body and your body? What does it regulate? I mean,
Yeah.
what's it do? What the heck is it?
Yeah. It is without a doubt the missing piece in our medical industry.
Mhm.
This is something that's completely vacant. I just went and did a conference, a medical conference, where I was speaking to about 150 doctors. I asked them to raise their hand if anybody here is familiar with the endocannabinoid system. Two of the doctors raised their hand, and then I asked them, out of the two of you, have you received any formal training on this? Both hands went down. So this is without a
Wow.
doubt the missing piece in modern medicine.
Mhm.
So we can kind of backtrack. This is going to be a long answer. So as I mentioned, cannabinoids, cannabis, has been utilized for nearly 5,000 years. We go back to ancient China, which it was in Emperor Shang Nun's Pharmacopoeia, where they stated that they utilized cannabis for gout, malaria, and rheumatism. You have the same
Okay.
documented text in ancient India, in ancient Egypt, Rome, and Greece, where doctors are on record where they utilize cannabis for various different conditions. And I want to think about that a minute, is that we're talking about different countries on different continents, different cultures, different time periods that they
Mhm.
were utilizing this plant, and this plant was available. So fast forwarding to more modern history, there was an Irish physician that was studying medical cannabis, and he started to spread this through European medicine. And then it quickly made its way here to the West. And Western medicine doctors here in the States were prescribing cannabis for various different conditions in the mid 1800s. And this occurred all the way through the early 1900s. And then by the 1930s, they really put the kibosh on this. It's like a lot of us are aware of propaganda nowadays, but we don't really realize how long they've been running that play. And what
Mhm.
happened in the 30s is they started to demonize this plant. They started to put um, money into budgets for full length feature films, the movie Reefer Madness, where they were just really patronizing this as being a dangerous drug. And ultimately, this plant became illegal in 1937, where they initiated the Marijuana Tax Acts. And that was in 1937. Now, this plant became illegal for over 80 years. Now, it wasn't until the 90s, really 1988, they were studying the effects of THC on the brain when researchers saw something that astounded them. There was an abundant amount of receptors in the brain that were becoming activated. And this was shocking because they had never seen a plant anything from a plant activates so many receptors in the brain. And this ultimately
Mhm.
led to the discovery of the body's first cannabinoid receptor. This is the cannabinoid 1 receptor, now known as the CB1 receptor. And this led researchers to believe that there must be something endogenous in the body that activates so many receptors. And it took them 4 years to discover the body's first endogenous cannabinoid. These are now known as endocannabinoids. 2 years later, they found another endogenous cannabinoid. 1 year later, they found another cannabinoid receptor located within our immune system. And this was the discovery of the endocannabinoid system. So
Okay.
it's a relatively newer medical discovery, but really not. We're talking about the 1990s. This
Yeah.
is getting
It's
close.
always been there. Nobody knew it was there,
Right.
and they didn't know what to call it, I guess. Yeah.
So, what we've discovered since then is our body has operated on cannabinoids since the day we were born. Even
Mm.
before we were born, in utero, we're exposed to endocannabinoids produced both by the mother and the fetus itself. Even when we are born through mother's milk, we are getting endocannabinoids from the mother. So, this system, what is it? It's a massive self-healing communication network that spans our entire body. We have hundreds of trillions of cannabinoid receptors, and these are connected to every single vital organ, nearly every vital tissue and cell within the body. And what this system is, it's really a preventative healthcare system that's built into our body. It's
Mm.
a early warning detection system that spots imbalances, has the ability to correct them, and it can do this before a symptom or a health problem occurs. So this system, it literally connects to every one of our vital systems. I mean, we're talking central nervous system, circulatory system, respiratory, pulmonary, endocrine, reproductive, immune system, muscular, our digestive system, our pain sensory system, lymphatic
Yeah.
system, like every vital system. So this system doesn't just connect to these systems, it monitors them for imbalances. And when there
Wow.
is an imbalance, the endocannabinoid system is the only system in the human body that has the ability to modulate or regulate another vital system. And we could
Yeah.
dive a little bit deeper into it, but basically, this system that we have in our body is a preventative healthcare system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's just amazing that really the Western medicine, that they don't even acknowledge it, or they don't even study it in medical school, is what I'm assuming. They don't even get that information there. And it's like, it is so important, especially if you're talking about how it absolutely helps regulate just about every system and that we already have. If you can start with that, then just think of I know we can't make any claims, but just think how it can improve how your body works, if you want to put it simply that way. I mean, starting with the endocannabinoid system, if you're, repairing, I don't know if that's the word, if you're repairing that or you're helping it, along, I would think that would just make really big strides in people that have health issues.
It absolutely should be
Hmm.
the number one focal point in medicine, in my
Hmm.
opinion. I mean, we have
Yeah.
specialists in, gastrointestinal specialists. We have cardiovascular specialists. We have neurological specialists. We don't have any specialists in the
Hmm.
endocannabinoid system. And here's how the endocannabinoid
Yeah.
system works. It's constantly monitoring all of our vital systems. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, it's checking for any type of deviation to equilibrium. And so when the endocannabinoid system detects an imbalance, this could be pain, this could be inflammation, this could be a metabolic disorder, this could be psychological, physiological stressor, this could be a toxin, this could be one of 100 different things in the body. Whatever creates an imbalance, the endocannabinoid system, it steps in to recreate harmony. And it does that
Yeah.
by calling for the genesis of new endocannabinoids. These are synthesized on demand by lipid enzymes. They're
Mhm.
synthesized precisely when and where they are needed. Now, once they are created, they contain a healing message, and they will release and traverse to the area of the body that's compromised, and it binds to a cannabinoid receptor. Once this connection occurs, it is delivering the healing message, and then it
Mm-hmm.
activates this receptor. Now, what happens is this receptor basically is broadcasting healing instructions to the body, and this will enhance cellular communication. There's a cascade of signaling events that take place where the body goes through a natural healing progression. Ultimately, what's happening is balance is being restored. The body returns back to homeostasis. That endocannabinoid will release from that receptor, and then it gets destroyed by a enzyme. So a lifespan of our endogenous cannabinoids are roughly 30 seconds to 3 minutes. That's it. So this
Wow.
is a process that can happen in the body millions to billions or trillions of times.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, we don't know because it hasn't been investigated that deep. So this is a preventative healthcare system. This is the only system that is basically concerned about the health of every vital system. So yes, if
Yeah.
we changed our focus and started to put all of our resources into how do we keep the endocannabinoid system healthy? How do we make
Mm-hmm.
sure that this system operates at a high level? Because we could potentially focus on one system and this system can take care of the rest.
Oh, the rest. I keep the word dashboard keeps going through my mind, that it's almost like it's the dashboard, but then it also, it monitors everything and then sends everything out where it needs to go, and whether it's put out a fire or, or whatever. But really, if we just start with the ECS, it could probably do some life-changing benefits for a lot of people. But talking about like some of the health issues, and um, we mentioned CBD, and early on you mentioned THC, and I just wanted to make sure that we brought that back to our discussion, because a lot of people in the community, they hear the word THC and they're like, I think that's supposed to be bad for you. But I want you to go back into CBD and THC, and that there is no THC in Pico IV. So
Correct.
if you could touch on that.
Yeah, of course. So
Mhm.
any of the products that we are creating, there is absolutely 0% THC. And again,
Mhm.
this goes back to the propaganda, right? They want
Right.
people to think of this plant as a drug. They want people to
Mhm.
think of this plant as getting high, and that is the farthest thing from the truth. So you have cannabis-derived cannabinoids, and those are cannabinoids that have over 0.3% THC. You could say that those are more recreational, but there's a lot of medicinal qualities to cannabis products. Now,
Mhm.
everything that we work with is considered to be hemp derived. A hemp derived cannabinoid has less than 0.3% THC. Now, in all of our products, we have 0% THC. So we're working with many different cannabinoids in this plant, not just CBD, CBDA, CBG, CBGA, CBN, CBC. These are all non-psychoactive cannabinoids that have different therapeutic effects, so to speak, where they
Mhm.
hit different pathways within the body, but it's doing it simultaneously. And what they call that is the entourage effect, where you're seeing enhanced benefits on each of these cannabinoids because they're basically enhancing one another. So the clear difference between cannabis is the THC content. Hemp derived cannabinoids with 0% THC. This is not a psychoactive cannabinoid. This is more
Mhm.
about health, wellness, and healing and doing it naturally.
Yeah. Well, and I can attest to that because I actually have used the Pico IV system, and there none of the effects that I got, like back in college or high school. So no, it was I actually it was great. It was I personally, I participated in it because the Pico IV for me is just maintaining my health, making sure that all of my systems work. I want to, I like cutting edge things when it comes to my health, and this was something that was, I feel, very beneficial for me. So there's my take on that. But when we're talking about this, because I keep going back to, in the 1930s, you're saying is really when kind of some of that propaganda came out, and they're making all of these claims against CBD and natural things. And which my personal belief is, for those of you who are familiar with like the whole Rockefeller effect in pharmaceuticals and creating synthetic things, and that really was a big push to get rid of natural compounds and homeopathy and all those things that were working for hundreds and hundreds of years because they weren't patentable, and they wanted to make patentable pharmaceutical drugs. So I think that kind of correlates in that timing. And since then, I think, and to today, we are now starting to see a lot more communication about natural compounds, holistic healing, but there is still a lot of censorship out there. There's still a lot of people that, if they're going to call us quacks or whatever when we're looking at natural, holistic alternatives. What has been your like experience with any type of censorship or people not wanting to hear what you say? I mean, are you getting some of that pushback?
Yeah, I mean, because again, they did such a great job with the propaganda. I
Yeah.
mean, they really, did a wonderful job at shaping people's minds, and that has stuck with them. So, and that's just from people confused about what our product is and what it does, right?
Mhm.
You have people that are concerned because they think it's about getting high. But when it does come to censorship, sure, yeah, we're still facing that. On Meta or Instagram, you cannot do a paid ad with CBD product in there.
Mm.
Even though, like you said, this is completely natural, and going back to what you were saying in the 30s, right? This was the rise of synthetic drugs. And when you look at the pharmaceutical industry, when they started, they were just reverse engineering natural molecules and recreating synthetic versions, right?
Yeah.
So it's wild to us that you have 5,000-year history of this plant being a natural, don't want to say remedy, but a natural way to really promote healthy structure within the human body. But we still can't do these type of paid ads, which is challenging.
Yeah, that is challenging. Well, I'm hoping that, you all are able to get the word out more and by doing some podcasts. And I know we've met up at some of the conventions, and it's a little bit more difficult to get the word out. But that's really one of the things for people watching this. If you are seeking some alternative therapies or anything, or your friends are, be sure to share this podcast. I will leave the Pico IV contact information down in the description so that if you want to find more information, and plus your website, we'll have that on there. But Dan, as we are kind of wrapping up, is there anything in particular, that some message that you really want to get out to people and into the community about Pico IV?
Well, yeah, it's, our mission is to create awareness around the endocannabinoid system. This is whether you're a health practitioner, or you're just somebody that's actively interested in your health and
Mhm.
being as healthy as you can be. We have to start creating awareness around this system. I mean, the endocannabinoid system, if we talk about things that contribute to premature aging, and we think about the core of what the endocannabinoid system does, it is our biggest ally when it comes to longevity. The endocannabinoid system provides 24/7 regulation of inflammation in our body. The endocannabinoid system is protecting us 24/7 against oxidative stress. The endocannabinoid system is very critical when it comes to neuroprotection, neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, regulating inflammation in the brain, protecting against oxidative stress in the brain, protecting against excitotoxicity. This is our biggest defender when it comes to our
Mhm.
brain, but also it protects our mitochondria health. It protects our DNA. It helps with autophagy and cellular cleanup. It is very involved in our metabolic regulation. In the endocannabinoid system, it works hand in hand with our immune system. We have cannabinoid 2 receptors attached to all of our immune cells, our macrophages, our natural killer cells, our B cells, T cells, dendritic, mast cells, neutrophils, all of them. So the endocannabinoid system can very much regulate and modulate our immune system. So we have to dive into the
Mhm.
education of the endocannabinoid system, because sadly they are not teaching it, because they had to figure out how to make money on this system. And once they
Mhm.
figure out how to make money on this system, they're going to start teaching the public, our doctors and our nurses. And Kathy, this is something
Mhm.
interesting
Yeah.
to know, that there are over 1,000 synthetic cannabinoid compounds that have been patented. So there's over 1,000 synthetic
Really?
drugs that they have filed patents to target the endocannabinoid system. There's over 15 synthetic cannabinoids in phase 2 and phase 3 studies right now. So it is coming
Mm.
out. They are going to
Yeah.
hit the market with synthetic cannabinoids to target the endocannabinoid system. And for me, it's like, why are we still doing this? Why are we reverse engineering natural molecules when nature has provided a perfect plant? Many people
Mhm.
believe that this is nature's pharmacy in a flower. Many
Yeah.
people that understand the endocannabinoid system consider it to be the body's master regulator, consider it to be the body's master guardian. So we just have to learn more and more about this system and what we can do to support this system, because there's so many things that you can do naturally to enhance your endocannabinoid system, whether it's exercise or eating clean food, staying away from pesticides
Right.
and processed foods. Mindful practices, and then of course, healthy fats. This is a lipid system, so we have lipid enzymes. These are lipid endocannabinoids, so omega-3s, and getting healthy fats. These are ways that you can enhance this system, as well as plant-based cannabinoids.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing if you say there's over 1,000 synthetic ones, that are being tested or, in process. I mean, no wonder you guys kind of are under the eyes of the FDA. They don't want a natural, they don't want a natural product to compete with. Absolutely not. And, more power to you guys for being disruptors and getting the word out. And I just, you had me at the word inflammation, and I'm like, that's one of the main things that really affects most people's health nowadays. And it's just such an amazing product. You guys are an amazing company, and I just wish you guys the best. And anything we can do to help spread the word about Pico IV, we're here for you guys.
Oh, I really appreciate that. It means a lot,
You
Kathy.
bet.
It really does. Thank
You
you
bet.
so much.
You bet. And for everybody out there in the audience, just make sure that you continue to educate yourself and, find those resources, reach out to friends, spread the word, and we will catch you next time on the Me Hand Mission podcast. Thanks.